Welcome back. You're watching and listening to Breakfast with Stephen and Tamsin. It is very nearly 6:34.
Right, let's take a look at today's front pages. The front page of the Times this morning has the BBC chairman undermined trust in the BBC over the Boris Johnson loan. That's according to MPs.
The Observer has Michael Gove and David Lammy, the Labour MP, joining secret cross-party talks held to confront the failings of Brexit.
The main story in the Sunday Express is the 30th anniversary of James Bulger's murder, as James's brother has urged Dominic Raab to keep killer John Venables in jail for life.
Sun on Sunday reports that a witness has told police he spotted two men acting suspiciously close to Nicola Bulley's dog walk route the day before she disappeared.
And the Star leads with the Fuel Monty as nudists put on clothes as heating bills rocket.
I didn't see the research they did on that story. Let's go through the papers now with anthropologist and her off of time team, Mariana Hotter, and Deputy Editor of Spiked, Fraser Myers. Morning to you.
Good morning.
Good morning. Fraser, let's start with the Observer and Brexit, should we?
So there have been these secret cross-party talks involving a mixture of kind of Leavers and Remainers from both parties and business people, and the idea is to discuss some of the failings of Brexit, to discuss where things can be improved. To some extent, there's talk of reviving the relationship with the EU because things have been frosty, particularly over the rows with the Northern Ireland Protocol. So Brexit is back in the news, essentially.
I can't imagine what David Lammy would have to say that's going to be particularly useful. I mean, no offence against David Lammy, but I mean, he's not a fan of Brexit, is he? So what's he going to add?
That's the point. I think this is a really interesting development because you're right. David Lammy is normally thought of about being incredibly thoughtful and experienced on diversity and inclusion, on sort of criminal justice. But actually, I think as soon as you're having a conversation with people who aren't sort of Brexit do or die, or kind of that isn't their sole focus, that it's a more enlightened, holistic, joined up way of thinking about the challenges that Brexit has provoked and the solutions that might be available to maximise leverage the situation. I think it gets us to better solutions. If you have kind of single focus, single lane individuals, then you're only going to get a certain number of. You need diversity of thought.
Yeah, I hope he's a bit more constructive in private than he has been in public. This is the guy that said that people in the Brexit wing of the Tory party were worse than Nazis. Not just Nazis, worse than Nazis. And you liken them to defenders of apartheid in South Africa. So you do wonder how constructive these kinds of talks.
But he does like to trot out a headline. But I think whenever I've spent time with him, when he's come in for interviews and things, I actually get a chance. He's been actually, I mean, as you say, a very clever, very thoughtful, very nice man.
Yeah.
I think maybe he just likes a headline.
I think so.
Comes out with a few bits like that.
I think my worry with a lot of this is that I don't think that Brexit is really the cause of the UK's economic problems.
No.
I think if we, if the solution to our ills is to rejoin the single market and the customs union, then we're going to be in economic trouble for a long time coming. I mean, if we look at British...
those in the single market are not
There's no one...
Really.
Exactly. We often, we like to compare ourselves with Europe and we're saying, we're doing worse than Europe this year, but Europe is a terrible, or the EU average is a terrible place to compare ourselves to. Nowhere in Europe is especially dynamic. And if you think about some of the sort of southern European countries, being in the single market, customs union, and even the single currency hasn't exactly helped them. They're poorer than they were in the year 2000. So, is that really the best economic strategy? I don't think so.
No. Marianne, let's have a look at the cost of living crisis, shall we? The Sunday People says you can't see the GP because it's too cold.
So apparently 1 in 10 GPs have been forced to reduce the time that they see patients for, and they're also asking staff who are working at the surgeries things like, put more clothes on so we can actually turn the thermostat down, just to reduce the cost of being able to run the physical surgery, let alone actually time facing patients.
Well, that's fine though, isn't it?
It
that
is
sort of
fine.
thing you've got to save money.
The thing is, it's kind of the canary in the coal mine. If GP surgeries are in such peril in terms of their sort of economic sustainability. And obviously, lots of people have had experiences, and Wes Streeting, the Labour Shadow Cabinet Minister, has spoken very kind of openly about the fact that you have to phone up at 8 o'clock or 8:30 and then sit in a queue for 45 minutes saying, you are 43rd in the queue.
Yeah.
And then you get a kind of automated message saying, all the appointments for today have gone. And you're like, well, what am I supposed to do now?
It's just going to put people off going to the doctor further, isn't it? Perhaps the elderly as well.
All those kind of those little niggling things that actually, you're right, the preventative healthcare piece, the well-being thing, not the I've got this terrible thing and I don't know whether to go to A&E or see my GP. You don't want people to end up in that situation or getting to a point where, things have progressed. So, obviously, until now, I think a lot of the focus has been on the harm to patients, rightly, but this sort of is quite interesting because you don't normally expect the people to perhaps kind of lead on kind of big, meaty issues like this, but I think they do a really good job.
We're also hearing that doctors are leaving the NHS, aren't they? Yeah. They're too stressed out.
And they're burning out and they're quitting because there's a certain point, so GP partners are basically self-employed, and so when costs to run the surgery increase, obviously what they're taking home reduces, and so they're having to manage the books. They don't have some kind of big safety net, financial safety net. It's an individual small business, effectively, and they're really feeling the pinch. I'm not saying that a GP is necessarily going to be heading over to the food bank anytime soon. Let's be realistic. However, what we are asking them to do is carry a huge health burden of the nation coming out of the pandemic. After so many years of austerity, people's health has had a hit, and GPs are picking up the slack of that because they know there's such need in the people that they serve and they can't meet it, which must be crippling.
Oh, well, yeah.
Right, should we move on, Fraser? The Express, not a cheery story.
No, so essentially one of the brothers of Jamie Bolger is saying that he doesn't want John Venables to ever see the light of day. People might remember that John Venables killed Jamie Bolger when he was just 10 years old. He was released from prison but then was sent back after 2 charges of child pornography. And Dominic Raab, the Justice Secretary, is saying that you shouldn't be allowed to come out of prison if you've had 2 convictions after you've already left. I mean, there's something slightly worrying to this. I mean, if you think about it, obviously everyone hates John Venables for good reason, for the kind of evil act he did, but he was a child at the time. He was only 10 years old. And yet it seems that, he could spend the vast majority of his life in prison, even having served his original term. I think that is quite concerning.
I mean, it's one of these stories that just sticks with you, doesn't it? I mean, 30 years ago, but you remember it like yesterday. Well, I do. What do you think about this?
Well, I think Fraser's right. You kind of expect these stories to come up around the time of the anniversary, and then you've increasingly got all the people who are old enough to remember going, oof, and all the people who are going, who? What?
Yeah.
But Fraser's absolutely right. You can't change how justice works because there's this one anomalously horrific act of crime. You can't say, oh, well, therefore, for this particular individual, we're just going to change the rules completely. There has to be rules. I mean, that has to be the basis of a justice system that is transparent and fair and is equal to everybody. So I think we just shouldn't get involved with it.
No, they were treated a little bit differently when they were prosecuted.
Yeah.
Weren't they? Because it was deemed such a horrific crime.
They were given a full adult trial, and the judge in his sentencing remarks essentially said that they were evil, the 2 twins, which is kind of extraordinary talking about children.
Yeah.
It did shock us though, because we still, none of us can really get into the mindset of why those boys did what they did.
It was a terrible, terrible thing. But as you say, I think there's got to be this. John Venables was, and I don't know if they were both the same age or the other boy who's Robert Thompson, who doesn't get mentioned in a lot of this. But 10 years old, and then what they've been through since has obviously impacted their whole lives. So, I mean, I'm not showing sympathy for them, but do you write off the whole life of a 10-year-old?
I think
as a result, I just don't know.
It's about whether there is a risk of public harm,
Yeah.
and again, that is based on whatever if you've done your time, as it were, regardless of, taking someone's life is taking someone's life, and kind of we have to just trust that the system works.
As you say, do it sort of case by case, and not just because this one sticks in our mind.
Exactly.
And it was the case that led us to reduce the age of criminal responsibility to 10, or to get rid of the kind of protections for under 14-year-olds. And it has, subsequently we've seen children tried for things like, 8-year-olds tried for things like rape, and I think it's wrong. We've got to really start to see adults and children as different.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure you might have a view on that. Let's. Have we got time for? We have. Let's do the Brit Awards. Should we? Mail on Sunday.
You were going to go for Valentine's Day cards for pets.
No, I want to look at Sam Smith's outfit because because it just.
Nice, isn't it?
Part of me, right? This is the thing. Part of me thinks I want to sort of rant on about what on earth does he look like? What's he thinking? I mean, how utterly ridiculous. They. Sorry. But then I sort of think, well, Lady Gaga wore very strange outfits for a time. It's good for the career. It's good for the profile.
Yeah.
This is the business.
If you're going to wear a bonkers latex inflatable lumpy suit thing, why not do it at the Brit Awards when you're at the peak of your pop career?
You see, I sort of think,
We're not on the school run, but this is the perfect place to do it.
You see, I'm being a fuddy-duddy, aren't I?
I think
basically.
it might be.
I think
Like fashion houses, though, isn't it?
I was thinking,
that's not.
well, no, you see, there's me at 49 thinking, how does he go for a week?
There's probably a secret
How do they
zip or
go? How do
something.
they go for a
Secret
week?
zip on something.
If you got the sense, if you got the sense from Sam Smith that he was having a really good time, he was really having fun playing around with these things, then I think it would be a bit more amusing. But he actually looks miserable half the time in these outfits. They actually look miserable half the time in these outfits, and there's just an air of desperation about it, I think.
Well, it's just headline grabbing, isn't it? Headline grabbing, it makes the headlines.
Yeah.
But fashion houses do that, don't they? When they debut the new line and you see them on the catwalk, it is something you never wear.
Absolutely.
So this is all fashion, isn't it?
It's concept.
I wonder who made the outfit, actually. It'd be interesting to know who
It's remarkable.
designed it.
I imagine the sewers, the people who kind of put this together and like had to do the pattern cutting and all the stitching. I mean, I imagine it's probably quite a technical piece of...
I can't imagine it's easy to stitch latex or whatever it is.
No.
Does it have to be inflated?
It's strange.
Does it get inflated after he's put it on?
Spaces,
Or is it like that when you wear it?
I think he went to the loo. Went to the loo afterwards. Took it
like
off
a bicycle
something easier for the after show party.
I don't know.
I love it.
But it's as I say, I'm warming to it. Just thinking, don't be such a fuddy-duddy. It's pop. They're a pop star. This is what pop stars do.
It is, isn't it?
And I'm just being a bit of a old so-and-so, which I think is actually fair enough.
There are those, you have to kind of go through all the pictures to find, like, the pretty dresses that you go, oh, that's nice, you could wear that to a wedding.
Yeah.
But obviously the ones that have kind of caught the headlines are Sam Smith in a inflatable latex suit, and there's another performer who was wearing basically a see-through
that was very odd.
Full-length dress
with lumps on her back, which I don't know what they were.
It's high fashion again. I mean, even Jessie J, who's getting her big baby belly out.
Oh, you see, I didn't like that. There was two of them pregnant who
big
had
fluffy shoulders, looks like an ostrich.
Yeah, you see, I like.
I mean, no one's wearing that down the pub, are they? But it's kind of cool that someone's.
It's kind of each to their own, isn't it? I think it always is with fashion.
Well, yeah.
One person will wear, the other wouldn't.
I'll tell you what. Let's talk love, shall we? Let's talk puppy love. Because you've got me in the mood now.
Have it? What, with Jessie J's
have you got a pet?
No, I've not got any pets. No.
Oh, so you're not spending any money on your pets? What about you?
No.
My dog died.
Oh.
Like flowers at the graveside or something.
Oh.
That's okay. I mean, he was very old.
Oh.
He's actually, do you know what? It's not flowers at the graveside. I gave him to science.
Did
so he's
you?
currently in a freezer waiting to be turned into bones to become part of a zoo archaeology bone reference collection.
Oh, well, I think I actually think that's quite interesting.
Yeah, it's really cool. So he's
actually.
going to be in a shoebox, and archaeologists, when they dig up dog bones from a dig, go, oh, what kind of dog's that? Well, they get to go and compare them to the dogs that are in the reference collection. They go, oh, this dog we found, this medieval dog, was about the same size as a chocolate Labrador. Harpo, brackets Harpo.
Oh.
Yeah, it's kind of cool.
That's
I
amazing
thought,
thing
I'd like
to do.
I
that.
quite like, but,
Yeah.
but anyway,
Sorry,
people,
but that's not what if you want to donate your dog to science, vet schools sometimes want dogs for dissection and stuff. I think it's better than.
I don't think people know that they can do that, do they, actually?
Yeah, no, I think that's not a bad idea.
It's kind of
But anyway, Valentine's cards.
Yeah, apparently, lots of people are buying Valentine's Day cards either for their pet or
From their
more likely
pet.
from their pet. So you buy your partner a pet. You buy your partner, for example, a card, but it's from the cat saying you're the perfect.
What do you think,
or whatever.
Stephen? You got a cat?
I have got a cat.
Are you going to get a Valentine's Day card from your cat?
No.
Gonna do it? No.
Aww.
No, I don't. I mean, the cat. But see, the cat doesn't get a birthday present or anything. But then I don't know. It's a rescue cat. I don't know when his birthday is. So
If you did know when his birthday was, would you get him a present?
no.
Oh, you would.
I don't think so. I don't think so. Every
just
day
one
is a-
step too far, that,
Every
isn't
day
it,
is a
surely?
birthday for Timmy. He lives a life of luxury.
Apparently, card sellers now are doing 3 for 2s on Valentine's Day cards because
3 for 2s.
Yeah, so you can buy 3. Do you
Well, I
know
mean-
what a 3 for 2 is?
Well, yes, but
Oh, right, okay. Because
but
people
3 for-
send more than one Valentine's Day card. So you'll send one to your cat, you'll send one to the dog, your best friend, you'll
You
send
said it was-
one to
no,
your
I'm sorry.
intimate partner.
3 for 2s on Valentine's Day cards sounds like someone who has no morals. You should be buying a Valentine's card for your husband or your wife or
I
your
used to get one
girlfriend.
from my dad. I'm sure it was.
Oh, when you were little?
When I was very little.
Oh, yeah, well, that's
Yeah.
all right.
Is that different?
No, that's all right.
At what age is it unacceptable?
What, to get one
Yes.
from your parents? Probably about 12, I would say. Or something like that.
Yeah.
I think I was probably about 10.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't send
Bit like
Valentine's
that.
Day cards.
Don't you? Well, not to your lovely
I was
husband.
chatting to the makeup artist, and she was like, "Oh, don't do it." Cringy.
Oh, well, I'm with you on that.
Cringy.
Valentine's.
Well, if you live in a polyamorous polycule, then the 3 for 2 offer is great.
Yeah, there you go.
Are you sending one this year?
I couldn't possibly reveal that.
That's the thing. It's actually meant to be a secret.
Yes,
isn't
it's
it?
supposed to be for secret admirers.
Yeah.
I suppose you can fancy
not.
multiple people, can't you?
Mine's not,
You can.
mine's not a secret. It says to my husband on the front. That gives it away who it's from. There you go. Put a question mark on the end of that, you'd look a bit stupid. Anyway, Fraser, Mary Ann, thank you both.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So much.
Thank you very much indeed.